Do 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 do. Don't you love these high quality fancy videos that I make? Ooh. By the way, if you haven't done it yet, there's a link below. You can download my free book, a Fujifilm Camera, Helpful Tricks and Tips, 131 pages. Thank you so very much. I've actually been out all day long, and yesterday. I actually had the Fujifilm X-T30 now for over a week. When I actually first got use of it for like 4 or 5 hours over a month ago, I was incredibly impressed. The one thing that I actually complained about on the X-T20, and of course I knew that the X-T3 was coming at the time with the X-T20, was the lack of a joystick. It was like the one thing. And there it is. I've done an enormous amount of testing. If you've actually, and a lot of you have actually, thousands of you actually already, according to the scores, downloaded my book, where I actually rate every Fujifilm lens and camera. You got a sneak preview as far as what my rating on this camera is. And I'm actually going to sound like a fanboy in this video on this camera, but I got to tell you something really important, and that is if you look in this book of the many, many Fujifilm cameras there are only 3 cameras that I rate with an overall score of 10 and a value score of 10. Those are respectively the GFX50R, the X-T3, and this camera. I didn't do that with the X Pro 2 or the XH1 or not even the GFX50S. It didn't get a dual perfect 10 out of 10 score across the board. Actually, when I review cameras, you can actually, of course, go onto Fujifilm and read the bleeping specification sheet of, you know, it has this number of this and this number of that. And, of course, people want information like that a bit. But I really, and it's what's important, is point out the actual extraordinary attributes or lack thereof of a specific camera and reviewing same. And I actually take camera and lens reviews very seriously. And I don't sell anything, by the way. I don't have any affiliate links. I want people to be happy. And I've, despite my gritty personality, kind of like sandpaper underwear, I've actually got a really good track record of making people happy. Even people online are like, I hate that guy. He rubs me the wrong way, but I love his reviews, and I'm always happy when I buy something he recommends. So before I actually praise this camera and gush over it, I just wanted to state that there's only 3 cameras, Fujifilm cameras, that I give a perfect 10 out of 10 score on, and that is the X-T30. You get 8 frames per second on continuous high. I did notice another reviewer said that the X-T30 can do 75% of what the X-T3 can do, and that's not true. When it comes to actual photography, it's really like 95%. I mean, the lack of a vertical grip, some of the nuanced limitations on some of the dials. And I never changed any of the dials on my X-T3, and I shoot aperture priority in 95% of everything. I don't actually need to change the dials on the X-T30 either. I've uploaded some shots on Instagram and also on Flickr if you want to take a look at some out-of-camera images on the X-T30. But I mean, it's still the same 26 megapixel backside illuminated sensor and image processing engine of the X-T3. The images are absolutely excellent, and this is my favorite little do-it-all lens. And this is actually, if I were to, and I wished I was, taking a trip to Iceland tomorrow, God, I wished I was. This is actually the camera and lens I was like, you can only have a backpack of stuff, and you're going to hike around Iceland, and you only have 1 lens and 1 camera. Actually, this is exactly what I would take. Either that or maybe the GFX50R and the 45mm, but definitely this. So I can't agree with that on 75% the same. Touch autofocus is amazing. I said the one thing I griped about, and there it is, thank God, is a joystick. The touch to autofocus, and please read my tips and tricks guide, you actually have to set up a zone parameter on the camera because your camera doesn't know the difference between your nose and your finger. And of course, since I shoot left eye dominant, I'm actually using the lower left quadrant of the LCD for my touch autofocus point selection, and it is just blasting fast and incredibly responsive. The same as it is, equally the same. I know no difference between this and my X-T3 in this regard. Yeah, I want to actually make the 3 really important points here in just a second. Yeah, the lack of, actually, I've only got one tiny gripe on this. It's not really a gripe. So you do have, obviously, no vertical grip. Also, too, it does not come, since you're going to get this camera for $900, at least here in the United States, it does not come with an external battery charger. They actually give you a wall socket and a USB cable for plugging in and charging via USB, and I don't recommend, and it's a USB-C connector, thank God. But it still charges across the main board. I don't recommend anybody do that. Recommend actually getting like a cheap knockoff charger, and most of you can get the X-T30 have already got an external battery charger anyway. The only issue that I actually have, and it's a bit of a gripe, is that the tripod socket is right next to the battery door, and I actually like using these fastener attachments, which you can actually see right here. When I screw this in for a hand strap, what it does is it blocks the there's always Velcro sticking to something. It blocks the battery door from being opened without removing the fastener socket. They should have actually placed the tripod socket in here rather than right up next to the battery door compartment. Obviously, it is the exact same NP126S battery as the X-T3. It's a single SD card slot, obviously so. The 3 important things that I like to point out on this camera, and it's the stuff that nobody else has mentioned, and it's the stuff that stands out. I mean, because, like I said, anybody can read a damn specification sheet and yada yada yada. It's got 8 frames per second. That's wonderful. I mean, who's going to watch a YouTube review, you know, merely based upon camera specifications? And I guess a lot of people actually do. I can state, and I made sure these 3 bold statements that I actually make about this camera that make it unique are palpable and accurate, and something that I truly mean as far as why I praise this camera so highly. And Fujifilm is going to sell the absolute hell and gone out of this camera. This is the first ever fully capable, ultra-compact, interchangeable lens camera. You stick, actually, I was out yesterday with my Voigtlander 40mm 1.2, which is an ultra-fast, compact, ultra-high precision lens, and just having so much damn fun with this camera. But this is, and I know there's the A6700, the A6400, excuse me, the new version. And of course, what's his face? I'm not going to mention his name. Did a review, and actually he praised the X-T30 for autofocus speed. He gave the edge, and of course I don't have that camera for you know, going back and forth between face and detect and I autofocus, even though I tested that out on the X-T30. In addition to the new firmware on the X-T3, and they are both now compatible. Even though the X-T3 is a hair faster, there's dual processing channels now on the X-T3 for exposure versus that of focusing, which makes the focusing faster. But I autofocus and face detect autofocus, which I have tested with a family member, I can see absolutely no difference between these two. But this is the first ever fully capable. In other words, there's nothing lacking. I mean, I've been out for the past, as you can see, the sunburn on my face. I've been out now for the past 6-some hours, shooting with the X-T30, and yesterday and the day before that. However, most of that was spent on finishing up my book. This is the most compact, my premise, and I don't sell anything, okay? And I'm not affiliated with Fujifilm, and I don't have affiliate links, so whatever you buy, I don't make a dime. The best ultra-compact interchangeable lens camera I've ever had my hands on, ever, period. Second bold statement. Other than, and the Street Sweeper camera, which I have, which is wonderful, and of course it has a built-in 23mm lens, the Fujifilm X100F. Of course, that's a fixed lens camera, and it does have 2 awesome features, that being leaf shutter, which of course you could do true hypersync with any flash. That's a wonderful feature, and a built-in 3-stop ND filter. This camera really is, especially like if I stick, and I don't care that they are manual focus lenses, stick one of my ultra-compact Voigtlander or Zeiss lenses on, this is a rival for the X100F. If I were to stick like even, trying to think, well, like my 50mm f2 of the 4 compact Fujifilm. I was actually using this lens yesterday. It's incredibly expensive, very rare, hard to find lens. It's just insanely sharp. Most of these old And it's not radioactive, by the way. This is the Yashinon 5 centimeter f2, and this is a little Fujifilm adapter. This is an M42 lens. It's just having so much damn fun. This is what everything, in my view, a Leica should be, but is not. And this is a real rival for that of the X100F Fujifilm camera, which is Fujifilm's definitive street sweeper camera. Really compact camera. I don't know, I think I got medium-sized hands. A lot of people complain that this camera is too small if they got gigantic Sasquatch-sized hands, and it is really damn small. It absolutely is. Third bold statement is that, yeah, with my adapted lenses, some of them are incredibly fast. I really enjoy this camera. I was really shocked when I used it, like I said, a month and a half ago when, what's-his-face, not Tobias, but the other guy from Fujifilm showed up, and I had it for like 4 or 5 hours. But the X-T30 had two deficiencies. The autofocus, well, was perfectly fine and, you know, decently fast. It was not blasting fast like the X-T30 is, and the only thing I griped about was the lack of a joystick. This is blasting fast, has incredible I autofocus. There's absolutely nothing lacking for touch point autofocus selection. There's nothing that I love more, and this is the one thing, even though the Canon M5 was a crummy little camera that had horrible lens selections for it, the one thing that was awesome about it is that you could actually not take your eye off the EVF and actually do touch point selection. And of course this is way better than that one was. It was plenty decent on the M5 Canon. This is way better. This camera really is a dream. And like I said, you know, I don't gush about every Fujifilm. I don't score them as high as this. So there's only 3 cameras that have scored this high, the X-T3 and the GFX50R. And this is one of those 3, the X-T30. So I'd give it a 10 out of 10 across the board. At $800, at roughly half the price of the X-T3, are you going to be missing anything between the two? Well, I mean, that depends. I mean, I love actual big cameras. I love vertical grips. I put a vertical grip on everything that I possibly can. Absolutely love the X-T3. The question is, what's your budget? Like if someone wanted a backup camera to their X-T3, obviously so it would be the X-T30. If someone is new to Fujifilm, oh my God, I can't imagine anybody. You'd have to be the pickiest, most spoiled person on planet Earth not to be incredibly happy. It's unimaginable that anybody would have a single peep or negative comment to say about the X-T30 for autofocus speed, tracking, and acquisition. By the way, I've got the definitive guide on autofocus tracking tips and tricks in my free book in the download link below. Does it sound like I'm doing a plug for my book? Well, my book is free, so everybody seems to like it. That's one thing actually people struggle with, especially that are new to Fujifilm, is actually figuring out you know, autofocus parameters. And of course there's type and mode, and of course everything, if you're familiar with Fujifilm, all the menus of course are going to be, you know, 98% the same. This camera is absolutely amazing. There's just, I can definitively say, and since I take camera reviews very seriously, and I'm not reading from a script right now, I can seriously say there's just not a chance in hell that you would get this X-T30 camera and not be incredibly happy with it. I can see 2 possibilities: that you have giant Sasquatch hands and that you know, it just doesn't fit your hand that perfectly. And of course there are grip options, third-party grip options. I don't think Fujifilm has any grip options unless the X-T20 grip fits this also, which I'm not familiar with that. Excuse my ignorance on that topic, but there is nothing lacking for autofocus or face tracking. Is 8 frames per second continuous high not enough in mechanical shutter? You have way higher than that in electronic shutter, but I base everything on mechanical shutter. Maximum burst rate and continuous high, which is 8. I said same image processor and same BSI 26 megapixel sensor in this as there is in the X-T3. Really one hell of a camera, and of course, you know, anybody that's familiar with the X-T10, X-T20, X-T30 series, of course, is familiar with the pop-up flash. And this actually is perfectly fine for candid face shots at like 15 feet or less. You're at a party, you're you know, you're at a family's house or something like that. Actually, this is nice, even though, of course, the worst lighting in the world is angle of incidence directly in line with the optical axis, i.e. a speed light on the top of the camera. I mean, it's perfectly adequate. I mean, don't have a xenon flash tube on the top of your X-T30, nor do you have one on top of the GFX 50S or 50R, so if you want to pack a speed light around and you want something ultra compact, this camera body is incredibly tiny. So glad Fujifilm listened and stuck a joystick on the X-T30. I mean, that would have really been a killer. I mean, if that were missing, this would have been an incredible camera with a nail through its heart, so to say. But with the joystick, you don't need the D-pad on this. There are 4 swipe functions on the LCD screen. So the 4 function buttons that are missing, there's not enough room here for the D-pad anyway. You have that replaced with the 4 swipe functions for setting up your custom functionality. Of course, you actually have physical function buttons, and then, of course, you have touch swipe functionality on the X-T30. So, yeah, so it does get a 10 out of 10. I actually gave it my highest recommendation, and once again, I have to point out that there's only 3 Fujifilm cameras that I've rated this high, and I really do mean it on the X-T30, because I don't want anybody coming back. I mean, that's why I always think of this stuff before I do a review on a camera lens. I don't ever want somebody to go, oh, I bought this lens or camera off your recommendation, I don't like it. I never want to hear that. I want people to be happy. You know, I'm not blowing smoke up your skirt. I really do want people to be happy. That's good. Life is short and shitty. It's good to, like, find deals and be happy. Of course, you can never please anybody. I mean, you could, like, tell somebody, you know, here's a free bucket of money, and they'd be like, that's too heavy. You expect me to haul this? What the hell's wrong with you? It's like, well, it's free money. So you can't make everybody happy. I know this, and you know this. But you do the best you can. And you take, you know, a broad spectrum of knowledge, and then you condense it down. And this video has been too long already. I meant this video to be short and sweet. I'm going to blame it on the coffee. But yeah, the X-T30 is incredible. Actually, in the brief pause there where I was being silent, I was actually thinking about how awesome the camera really is, and I mean that. Anyway, I will shut up, and next time I'm not going to drink so much coffee before I do a camera review. You're never supposed to eat or drink anything while making a video because it is rude and crude, and I humbly apologize for that. And to all my Russian friends out there, большое вам спасибо, увидимся и до свидания. And, yeah. My Russian's a little rusty now. But all of that was perfectly cleared if you're a Russian speaker. Thank you so much for watching. Download the free book. That way you could take the free book and this camera and be nailing the autofocus all the time. And also, too, got lists of all the lenses in there, what to get, what not to get, yada yada. Lots of stuff in there. Yeah, and it's free. Thank you, and the Fujifilm X-T30 is awesome, and Fuji. Bye! No, I don't want to upgrade to OS Mojave. I don't want to upgrade to that. No, I don't want to upgrade to Mac OS Mojave. No. Damn Apple. Oh my God.